Mr. Secretary, it's an honor to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your service to our country. You're a man of extraordinary capacity, having worked in the private sector, having served in the CIA as well as other parts of the public sector, and of course having gone to the best law school in the world. And so I appreciate your capacity to consider the kind of challenges we have. It is no surprise to anyone that China has ambition to dominate the world economically, militarily, geopolitically. And it would be a very, very different world indeed if they had the capacity and the ability to do that. I applaud the fact that the administration is taking action to push back against some of China's plans, specifically the imbalance of trade, the theft of intellectual property, and the forced transfer of technology as companies are considering moving into the Chinese market. But I wonder whether we're really addressing and confronting in a holistic strategy the various initiatives that China is undertaking. And there are some that I don't know whether we have plans afoot to deal with them piece by piece or whether we need something more expansive, but some kind of mind. One is, of course, the fact that China has, if you will, an industrial policy-oriented form of free enterprise, where they subsidize massively industries of the future, and whether that's 5G or telecommunication systems or artificial intelligence. So we welcome them into a world where we say we believe in free markets, and yet they participate in an unfree way, and that presents a challenge. They also are reported to buy American and other Western companies, small companies that have good technology, steal that technology and take it back to their more domestic purposes. They have a very extensive propaganda program in our country and throughout the West. The Confucius Institutes are clearly a part of that, and yet we have high schools, elementary schools, and universities in our country that don't seem to understand that by accepting the Confucius Institute, that they're participating in Chinese propaganda in our own country. Of course, there is the extraordinary oppression of human beings that we're seeing with the Uyghur in their own country, and then there's their ambition in the South China Sea, which is obviously challenging in its own right. So my question is: do we have a robust strategy to counter the entire Chinese effort, and particularly on those items that I mentioned? Are we considering those, or do we need to take a deeper dive into how to really confront what is, in my view, the great threat of this century, which is an authoritarian regime bent on dominating the world, which would be bad for free enterprise, for freedom, and for the prosperity of America and the world?
Senator, it's an important question, maybe the most important question that I'll get asked today. I think the world was slow to recognize the challenge that China has begun to present. I think we are now much further along the way than we were just 2 years ago. First step is always to recognize the challenge you have in front of you, and then second, to chart a course to confront each of those various challenges. You talked about a challenge from the Orwellian nature of the absence of human rights inside of China. You talked about it's not just Uyghurs, it's Kazakhs, it's Christians, it's broader than that. If you've seen these stories of this app that's being used, it's the Little Red Book, Mao's Little Red Book brought to your iPhone, where they have people put in their phone numbers and their names, and they get points for answering questions about Xi's policies. It's really quite something. The military is on the advance. You've seen it in the technology space. The State Department has a role in each of those. Obviously, other agencies have a bigger part in some of them. But our effort has been broad. First, to let the world know of these challenges. So our team across 180 plus embassies is out talking to our partners, sharing with them the risks, identifying the information we have so that they'll begin to take this challenge seriously. With respect to predatory lending and forced technology transfer, we're telling these countries about what will happen to them. It may feel good for a year or 2 years when you get that new project, but the legacy, the overhang will be enormously bad for the people of your country. And then there's a significant undertaking, more broad than the State Department inside the United States government, to make sure that these technology challenges, making sure that America remains in the front on AI, in front on the next wireless wave 5G, blockchain, all the issues that will dominate commerce and the rule of law in the decades ahead, that the United States is positioned properly. We confront an enormously difficult challenge. They take their big companies and make them subservient to their government. We don't roll that way. We shouldn't roll that way. But I believe ultimately we'll prevail with rule of law, transparency, as long as we're serious and focused on this set of issues.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Romney. I agree with almost everything you said, except I know there's at least three members who are graduate, or three people in this room who are graduates of the University of Idaho College of Law that would take exception regarding the law school.
Didn't get into Harvard, did they?
They did not. Didn't apply.